Hey guys, this is EJ Holland with the Wolverine.com, and we're back with another episode of the Wolverine Recruiting Podcast. We're going to talk about 5 things we learned coming out of another big recruiting weekend at Michigan. But before we do that, I want to invite you guys to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today for just $29.99 until August 31st. That gets you through spring football, basketball season, and summer official visit season. So sign up today, get premium insider recruiting information, team information, basketball recruiting, NIL, transfer portal, and so much more. Plus, you get to be part of a great message board community over on the Fort. Subscribe today for just $29.99 until August 31st. All right, guys, like I said, we're going to talk about 5 things we learned coming out of a big Michigan recruiting weekend. It was the final junior day before the dead period. The dead period has started. Recruits cannot visit schools during the month of February, so Michigan went out with a bang the last weekend of January and had a number of top recruits on campus, including top 100 linebacker Aaron Chiles. And the first thing we learned is Aaron Chiles has named Michigan his leader. Chiles out of Only Good Counsel in Maryland, one of the true powerhouses along the East Coast, a national powerhouse that has produced guys like Chris Jenkins, who stars for Michigan. So the Wolverines have had success there, and Chiles, again, named Michigan his leader coming out of the visit. A little bit of a surprise. Michigan was a school that was very high on his list coming into the visit, but there was a lot of buzz in regards to Penn State and Clemson, two other schools he's visited. Michigan did a fantastic job this weekend. Chiles really was enamored with the defensive scheme, and we highlighted Chiles in our Recruit of the Week segment. So if you haven't listened to that, make sure to check that out from last week. But he is a perfect fit for Michigan's defensive scheme. He's a physical inside linebacker that can get sideline to sideline and is terrific in pass coverage and just really comfortable in space. He reminds me a lot of Michigan star Junior Colson. And I think once he sat down with Jesse Minter, he really got an in-depth look at the scheme and how he would fit in, and he just fell in love with that. On top of that, he has great relationships with the entire staff. He spent a lot of individual time with head coach Jim Harbaugh. Michigan linebackers coach George Hilo has done a terrific job of building a relationship with him. Linebackers assistant LaTroy Lewis was very involved on this visit. Maryland recruiter Ron Bellamy has been involved in this recruitment. Recruiting coordinator and defensive line coach Mike Elston has also been involved in this recruitment. So an entire staff effort for Aaron Chiles. He is the top guy on the linebacker board and a must land this cycle. And it's terrific news that Michigan is on top coming out of the visit. He still wants to see other schools. He mentioned taking post-dead period trips to Notre Dame and Florida. But as things stand right now, Michigan is the team to beat. The second thing we learned is Michigan got a surprise visit from top 100 cornerback Aaron Scott out of Springfield, Ohio. Michigan's continuing its Ohio movement on the recruiting trail. Obviously, the Wolverines already hold a commitment from on 300 offensive lineman Luke Hamilton this cycle. Michigan finished strong in the state of Ohio last cycle, taking a handful of hidden gems. They're swinging for bigger targets in enemy territory, and Aaron Scott is arguably the best recruit in the state of Ohio in 2024. A lot of Ohio State buzz there. Ohio State considered to be far and away the leader. So terrific job by Steve Clinkscale just getting Scott on campus and allowing Michigan to become a factor in his recruitment. Now, Steve Clinkscale did stop by Scott's high school last month. And again, he's really turned up the heat with Scott. He is quickly becoming a top priority on the board now that he's expressing legitimate interest. And while Ohio State will still be tough to beat in this recruitment, Scott said he's in no rush to make a decision. I think Michigan has established itself as a true contender here and will be a school to watch moving forward. And of course, the opportunity at cornerback is there. When you look at the current roster, I mean, really, the only guy that has true experience is Will Johnson. So a guy that of the caliber of Aaron Scott could potentially come in and make an immediate impact. The third thing we learned is Michigan hit a home run with top 100 running back Taylor Tatum. Tatum is my favorite running back prospect on Michigan's 2024 recruiting board out of Longview, Texas. He is fantastic against top-tier competition in the Lone Star State. A speedy runner that's very athletic and also stars on the baseball diamond. And I used home run for a reason. He's a guy that's a legitimate baseball recruit. In fact, his entire Friday was spent with the baseball staff, and he really bonded well with them. Saturday was more geared towards football. You got individual time with Jim Harbaugh and Mike Hart. He loves Michigan's offensive scheme, the way they use running backs. Mike Hart's resume as both a player and a coach. So I think Michigan has solidified itself as a top school for Taylor Tatum, maybe not the top school just yet, as Tatum plans to really take his time with the recruiting process. Might be a guy that goes into the late period in 2024. He was pretty candid about that. However, he said the Michigan visit was phenomenal, and I don't think Michigan could have done a better job. I think the Wolverines have guaranteed themselves a return official visit. So Tatum, just a really dynamic running back. We highlighted him in a previous Recruit of the Week segment as well. So if you haven't listened to that, make sure to check it out. Fourth thing we learned is Michigan impressed its offensive line group. So the Wolverines had a handful of key offensive line targets in 2024 on campus, including Deontay and Devontae Armstrong, two on 300 prospects from the state of Ohio, twin brothers, and two guys that are very high on the board. Michigan also had on 300 prospect Michael Uini out of Texas, who was the highest rated of the offensive line group, and three-star 2024 offensive lineman Caleb Brewer out of Pennsylvania, who is a fast riser on the recruiting trail. But Sharon Moore did a fantastic job here. Obviously an easy sell. Back-to-back Joe Moore Awards. This should be an offensive lineman's dream. Michigan has to be a destination school for elite offensive linemen this cycle, and I think this weekend helped a lot with the Armstrong twins. Ohio State is considered a leader in that recruitment. They're working hard to keep them in state, but I think this visit really moved the needle, and Michigan's right up there with Ohio State. Michael Uini out of Texas is a guy that a lot of people expected to just stay south. And even when I checked with some sources down in the Lone Star State, they were surprised he was visiting Michigan, since the buzz has just been all Southern schools. But Sharon Moore did a fantastic job of building a relationship with him early on in the process. He went down to Texas to see him a few weeks ago, and now this visit really impressed him. In fact, Michael Uini tweeted out that he will be back at Michigan soon. So I think the Wolverines are very involved here and have become a dark horse amongst the Southern schools. And Caleb Brewer, while not rated really high, his stock is rising on the trail, and I think Michigan is right up there with Penn State in that recruitment. So really solid job by Sharon Moore with a nice group of talent coming in along the offensive line. The final thing we learned is Michigan came out of the weekend with no commits as of right now. I'm recording this on Tuesday night, no commits out of the weekend. I think last weekend offered more commitment candidates than this weekend, and you saw the Wolverines eventually land consensus 4-star defensive lineman Ted Hammond. We have a full breakdown of Ted Hammond here on our YouTube page, so if you haven't listened to that or watched that, make sure to go do so. This weekend, I expect Michigan not to land a commit from the visitors list in coming days, unlike last weekend, which I said was a possibility. But this weekend did set the stage for a lot of top-tier prospects. I mean, when you look at Aaron Chiles, top 100 guy. Aaron Scott, top 100 guy. Taylor Tatum, top 100 guy. And those recruitments are recruitments that are going to go longer by nature, right? But I think Michigan has solidified itself as top candidates for all those prospects, and I think they're positioning themselves well for a bounce-back recruiting class in 2024. All right, guys, for exclusive interviews and more content from the big recruiting weekend at Michigan, make sure to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today for just $29.99 until August 31st.
Thank you so much for watching. For more videos from the Wolverine, whether it be football, basketball, recruiting, live shows, and more, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for the latest.